This is Nothing But That Sports Talk. And welcome to Nothing But That Sports Talk. I'm Rafique Louison alongside Kelly Bright. And yeah, baseball postseason is what the postseason is supposed to be. And it's not your typical postseason, but at least we're getting some straight heat in the World Series with the series tied at one apiece. With the Dodgers taking game one, Tampa Bay tying it up in game two. What are your impressions on that?
I mean, it's great baseball. These are two high offensive games, 8-3, 6-4, and offensive games for two teams that don't usually give up a lot of offense. LA, they allowed 3.5 runs per game during the regular season. That's the second fewest in the league. Tampa Bay was fourth with 3.82. But in two games now, we've had 21 runs, 47 base runners, 8 home runs. So it's been really fun to watch. A lot of great baseball. And, obviously going into it, everyone was like, oh, the Dodgers by a landslide, best lineup, best offensive lineup in baseball. But here we have the Rays showing up. I mean, we had Brandon Lowe. He was kind of coming in a slump in the postseason, 2 home runs last night. So he's coming alive. Mookie Betts, one of the biggest names in baseball, he's having a series. So a lot of great talent in the series. And it's been really fun to watch so far.
Exactly. Now let's just get to game one. What are your impressions about the Dodgers' game one victory? Was it more the pitching or the offensive explosion in an inning?
I mean, the offense I think we knew was coming. I think my standout player was Clayton Kershaw, and I think he had the most pressure on him going into the game. I mean, we've heard it time and time again. Clayton Kershaw, he's great in the regular season. He's probably a future Hall of Famer, but he chokes when it matters. He chokes in Game 5 in the playoffs, World Series. He can never get it done. And I think in Game 1 he kind of proved them wrong. I mean, he came out and just shut everyone down. He's what 4-1 in the postseason now, 3-1 in the postseason. So you have, I think he had 1 run, 8 Ks, only had 3 base runners in 6 innings. And I don't think the Dodgers could have asked for anything more from him. I mean, his pitches look great. I know he worked a lot on his slider in the offseason. He went to drive line, trying to get the rotations up on his spin pitches. And he had 11 swing and misses off of just his slider alone. So he looked great. Expect to see him later on in the series. I think he could potentially be the MVP of the series, which would be great, especially for rewriting all the criticism he gets for not showing up in the postseason. So he was kind of my standout player. Also got to give Mookie Betts a shout out just for having the game of his life, home run. He had that great base running play, which I think base running is something that goes unnoticed a lot, especially in Major League Baseball. So that heads up play on running from third on the down ground ball to first. Of course, he makes a few good catches, and even the best of all, he wins free tacos for the country. So got to give him a shout out too.
Yeah, and that's the reason why the Dodgers had a 1-0 lead until Tampa Bay tied it up. Thanks to Brandon Lau's performance. What are your impressions on this guy?
I mean, you have to remember he was their best hitter throughout the regular season. So he's been relatively slow. So I think it's going to be huge going forward that he is breaking out now when he is. I mean, 2 home runs yesterday. That's huge. That's going to wake up the offense, hopefully. It's good to see him breaking out. Wendell even had the RBI sac fly in a double. So if you can get 2 more hitters to help out Randy Rosarena, I think that's going to be great for the Rays lineup. I expect him to only go up from here. As a softball player myself, I know sometimes all it takes to get out of a slump like that is to just have a big hit, and he had 2 of them in a World Series game. So I think he's out of his slump, and I can only see him going up from here. So I think that's going to be crucial for the Rays lineup going forward.
Not to mention the one important stat, the Tampa Bay Rays, they almost never lose when they score first. And this is another one of those games where when they score first, they always win most of the time. And this is the second game that the Tampa Bay's won in the Rays has won in the World Series franchise history. I
Mm-hmm.
mean,
It's
this is
crazy.
going to be conflicting because you don't want the Dodgers to have another disappointing postseason, but you want to see Tampa Bay get their first World Series win.
Yeah,
So,
exactly. Yeah.
yeah. What do you think is going to happen down the road?
See, I'm with you in that I feel bad for the Dodgers. I mean, they keep making it this far. They make it all the way to the World Series. They always have the best regular season. They have all these all-stars, and then they fall short. And as much as I said this on one-on-one yesterday, as much as I love Clayton Kershaw and I want him to prove the haters wrong, I love a good story, and I think the Rays have a better story. I mean, you have a small market team. You have the 28th smallest market team in baseball going against the number one biggest market team with the biggest, payroll, biggest budget. So I love the Rays as a team. They have a bunch of guys who kind of came out of nowhere. 7 of their 9 starters came from trades. These people, Randy Rosarena, nobody knew who he was until right before the playoffs. I mean, he didn't start playing till a few weeks before the postseason because he had COVID. And all of a sudden, he's probably the best player in October. So I love seeing the young guys. I just think they're a bunch of guys who kind of weren't really all-stars, maybe wouldn't be the best players on their team, but they're coming together and they're making special things happen. So that being said, I mean, it's going to be really hard to beat this Dodgers team. They're so talented. They're by far, hands down, the best talented team, the most talented team in baseball. But I'm sticking with, still think Rays in 7. I'm pretty confident.
That's really nice. But what do the Rays have to do in order to pull off this series win?
It's going to come down to pitching, which for them, I think they have the advantage. I mean, I guess they've always had pitching. They've got this deep bullpen. I mean, yeah, you've got those 3 and Diego Castillo, Fairbanks, but at the same time, they also have, I think they have 13 guys who have recorded a save this year. So when you get this late into the postseason, if you get into a game 6, game 7, it's not about, who has the best number 1 starter. It's about who's got the deepest bullpen, who manages their rotation best. And I think Kevin Cash has the advantage in that. I think he's done a great job managing his rotation and taking players out. I mean, you could argue he should have taken Glasnow out a little bit earlier in game 1, but besides that, he's done a good job of managing that rotation. And I think if you look at the Dodgers pitchers, they have Clayton Kershaw and Walker Buehler. And after that, there's not much there. No one else has really impressed me so far. So I think, you took that game 1 loss against Kershaw. If you can come out and, like you said, if the Rays can score early against Walker Buehler, especially when they have Charlie Morton pitching for them, who I think might be the Rays' best pitcher, then I think if you can jump on that game 3 and you get that game 3 win, that'll be huge, because then anytime it's going to be a bullpen game, I think the Rays have the advantage.
Yeah, and you know what? Despite the fact that the Dodgers lost to the World Series in 3 of the last 4 years, you got to be mindful of the fact that they have more experience in this Tampa Bay Rays roster's team compared to the last roster that made it to the World Series to get knocked out by the Philadelphia Phillies and be a victim of so many Ryan Howard moments. But what do the Dodgers have to do in order to turn the tide and get this series?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's kind of the flip side. I mean, the Dodgers have to make the Rays pitchers work. I mean, they've done that. Snell was awesome in game 2, but they still got him to lose his stuff towards the 5th inning. I mean, he gave up 4 walks. They started hitting him. Nick Anderson, arguably the best reliever in baseball right now, at least that's left, in October, and he hasn't been good. He's given up a run or more in 5 straight appearances. So if they can jump on these pitchers, if they can get them deep in counts, if they can up their pitch counts, kind of beat the Rays at their own game, I think that's going to be huge for the Dodgers. I mean, at the end of the day, the Dodgers just have to be them. They can't overthink things. They just have to rely on their hitters, which they've done all season. And you saw that in game 1, like as soon as they have one hitter start coming alive, you could argue 1 through 9 batters are capable of getting a hit in clutch moments every time. So I think they just got to keep attacking those pitchers. Don't let them get in a groove, and they're going to be just fine because they have the offense to win.
Yeah. Matter of fact, both teams have the offense to win. I mean, you see how far these guys come, but let's not ignore the fact. Let's not ignore the fact that you had the most historic runs to the World Series you ever seen. The Tampa Bay Rays, they took out the Blue Jays in just 2 games.
Mm-hmm.
They beat the Yankees for the first time in the very first playoff series between these 2 teams. Right. They were just a single loss away from being the second team in Major League Baseball to blow a 3-0 lead in an LCS or World Series. They literally prevented that, and now they're in the World Series. Now on the Dodgers side, you know how far they got when they took out the San Diego Padres, and they came back from 3-1 to take out the Atlanta Braves in the postseason again. But up until the World Series, which team you think was the most disappointing?
Disappointing. I would say the Yankees. I think the Yankees had the most pressure on them to do well. I mean, I'm a Red Sox fan, so it's hard for me to pick the Yankees. And I remember when at the beginning of the season, even if it was a shortened season, I was like, oh, Yankees, Dodgers. I don't see how there's any other way that's going to be the World Series. I mean, if you look at the Yankees lineup, it almost mimics the Dodgers lineup just in the American League. I mean, they had so many good hitters, Judge, Stanton. I mean, you could go on. And they're also a team that's deep off the bench. And what happens to the Yankees every year? I mean, they get injured. And then they can't seem to come back out of it. And then they make it that it's a roller coaster. They get injured. They have a little slide. I think they lost like 7 in a row at one point. They started coming up, and then you get to the postseason and they fall short. So I'd have to say the Yankees were the most disappointing just because they had so much potential going into the season.
Yeah, and you know what? Aaron Judge's Yankees had the potential to be a World Series champion, but they always fall short. I mean, one year is the LCS, the next year is either the wild card or the division series. And what do you know? You mentioned you're a Red Sox fan. You took out the Yankees a few years ago in 2018. Like, what was that like for you to watch the Yankees lose to your favorite team?
Well, I mean, I love talking about the past because this year being a Red Sox fan was not fun. Was not fun at all. But no, I love. I mean, I'm a diehard Red Sox fan, and anytime you beat the Yankees, it's special, especially when you go on to win a World Series. So, it's definitely a great feeling. I mean, I remember when I first started watching. The first year that I started watching baseball was 2004, which is when we were down, 3-1. Or down 3-0 actually. Sorry,
So you,
3-0.
you came back to win? Yeah, you were a part of history. I know you were happy about that.
Oh yeah, that drew me into the game. That made me love sports. That made me, made me love baseball. Made me want to become a Boston fan. So it's a rivalry that's like thick as blood. And anytime the Red Sox can come out on top, it's a winner for me. It's a great day for me. So this year was tough. We lost Mookie Betts going into the season. That was heartbreaking. Uh, we're down pitchers. We're injured as usual. It's a kind of a rebuilding year, but hopefully we can get something going in the coming years. I mean, we had decent hitters. We just they didn't hit. So there's not much you can do about that. And our pitchers weren't great. So off year for us, but at least we did get a ring a few years ago, which the Yankees can't say.
Yeah,
I mean,
I was just gonna get. Yeah, I was just gonna
that.
say that. Funny enough, you took out the Yankees and you taking out this year's World Series team, the Dodgers, in 2018. I know
Exactly.
you were happy about that, despite the fact you had one loss, was basically the longest World Series game ever. But the home runs were just skyrocketing home runs out of nowhere.
Awesome. Yeah, and Joe. I mean, at that time, Joe Kelly was on the Red Sox, and I mean, he's kind of been struggling with the Dodgers, but when he was on the Red Sox for that series, he hadn't really done anything, and then he came in the postseason and was lights out. And you know him with the glasses and everything. He's so funny to watch, and it was just something special. You had Kim.
What was that?
I live with 7 girls. I'm sorry, I don't know what happens sometimes, but um, you had Kimbrel. He's got the weird, funky motion. It was a great collection of guys. I mean, we did have Mookie Betts, which helped, but we can't win them every year. We can't win a ring every year.
Yeah, you really can't. And the Yankees can't win every year either, even though they do have the most rings. They're on the positive side and negative side of history, if you know what I'm saying.
Oh yeah,
But
definitely.
yeah, obviously for me, the most disappointing team, Cincinnati.
Mm.
You know why I'm picking Cincinnati? They got swept by the Braves. No run scored. And the pitching defense in game 2 was a lot worse than the pitching defense in game 1.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you got to admit, how do you go into the postseason not scoring a single run against Atlanta? How is that even possible?
Right. No, right.
That they need to get roasted for that one. At least in game 1, they were to take the game to extra innings, but get some runs next time, Cincinnati, if you're going to be in the postseason. You know how intense it is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you got to show up.
Yeah, but let's just get into your softball career so far. Like, what you love about playing softball at Fordham University?
Oh, I mean, I absolutely love it. So I'm a senior this year. Obviously, last year my season got cut short because of Corona, but I've loved it every year. It's amazing. Fordham Softball. I'm fortunate enough to be on a very talented team, a team that has a legacy. We've won 7 in a row, 10 rings. So it's something special. And every time, and there's just something different about the culture here. I mean, the girls, they're all so bought in. Everyone's so committed, and it's truly a family. Like I live with 7 girls. They're all on the team. So they've become my sisters. Like I couldn't imagine a better experience. And honestly, playing college sports is just, it's helped me with time management. It's helped me learn about teamwork. It's helped me learn about discipline, commitment, and I wouldn't trade the experience for the world.
What are some of your favorite wins that you had the whole time you were playing Fordham softball? Because obviously
Favorite?
there's going to be a lot of crazy wins during your time.
Oh yeah, I mean, anytime I freshman year we won. I would say A10s. We there was a game, and we had this fifth year senior, Lauren Quince. I don't know if you know her, but I think she was maybe 1 for 50 going into this game. This is the A10. It's the game before the championship, so it's like the semifinals of the A10s. And bases loaded. We're down by 2 runs. I think it was like the 6th inning. And my coach at the time, Bridget Orchard, she's no longer our coach. Some reason she just had a gut feeling that this girl was going to get a hit. Remember, she's 1 for 50, so one of the worst slumps you could possibly be in. And our coach was like, "No, she's getting a hit." Goes in, hits a grand slam, and we ended up winning the game. So that was special. Now, obviously, I was a freshman. To be a part of that was really cool. And then I actually was hurt my sophomore year. I tore my meniscus, so I missed the season. But I still remember I was on the bench, and it's still one of my favorite wins. So UMass, they're our rivals, and we were playing them again in the A10 at UMass. It was raining that day, been off and on. We just have this big rivalry against UMass. They hate us, we hate them, and we ended up smacking them. And they had this pitcher who was previously pitcher of the year before, and we hit her out. I think we had maybe 5 runs in the first inning. So being able to do that as a team, any like great team wins, I can't even. It's just an amazing feeling winning any kind of conference game with your team.
Wow, going for 1 in 50 to a grand slam.
Yeah. Oh, it was crazy.
I mean, if I was still going there around that time, I would have been like, "What did I just watch?"
Oh yeah.
I
Well,
went there during the well, let me to cut you off, but I went there during the 2018-19 school year like a few years ago. So I don't really get to know you, but I did get to know your teammate Gigi because she
yes,
worked a couple of mock 101s with me. So
yes.
yeah, I'm sure. Well, I don't even know if she told you, but well, we got to know each other a little bit due to mock 101s and the workshops at WFUV. So
Yeah, Gigi's
she
awesome.
has, but from there, I knew she had potential, but how well she's been doing for WFUV ever since.
Yeah, so Gigi's awesome. She's literally my best friend. She's been doing great. They've actually been really awesome about giving me and her opportunities. It's a little hard being student athletes because our schedules are so different and we can't do the same hours that maybe some of the other people in WFUV are. But Bobby Shaffergini's been great. Emmanuel, he's the student director now. He's been awesome about giving us opportunities. I mean, I know he's let me be on one-on-one a lot, do hosting, A host, B host, C host. Gigi's been doing a lot of video, a lot of editing. She got to do the NBA podcast. She hosted with Andrew Posadas during the finals, which was really fun for her because she loves the NBA. She's a huge LeBron fan, so she got to do that, and I've been doing a lot of hosting. It's been really fun, and we're actually we did a podcast last year, Killing the Game.
Yeah, I've heard about that. You Gigi did a podcast like
Yeah, we
talking
did.
about something about like doing student athlete life
Yeah,
within
we talked about being
softball.
student
I
athletes.
did see on social media that you guys are doing a podcast together. I did
So
a podcast about the March Madness tournament in 2019. So now you got a taste of what I had to. I got a little taste of what you guys had to do.
yeah, we're following your footsteps. We're taking it. We're doing it. Yeah. So we had to stop it when Corona came around, but we're actually starting it up again soon, which will be really fun. So no, it's been really awesome, and it's great having someone who's on my team, with softball, but is also on WFUV and kind of understands that part of it, like my career goals and that kind of thing. And she's been so supportive. So no, she's awesome.
Yeah, it's nice to see you getting the one-on-one reps, even if it is kind of different from the way it was when I went there in 2018-19 school year. Because
Yeah.
I mean, I've spoken to Jack, I've spoken to Jimmy Sullivan about this. It was way different, and the fact that the whole sports shut down, it was just so difficult to experience. At least for the men's basketball team managed to go into the shutdown on a high note by getting their first A10 tournament win.
Yes, they did. Yeah, I felt bad for them because, this is probably one of the best games of their lives. Like they were probably riding such a high, and then to have it all shut down. I know they came back on the bus the day that we also got shut down, and we kind of saw them walking, and it was just heartbreaking to see that because, they it for the men's basketball, we can't sugarcoat it. They haven't been great the past few years. So for them to get a conference win is huge. So hopefully they can carry that into this season. Hopefully this season happens. And if it does happen, hopefully it, finishes out and they get to another opportunity to play in the conference tournament again.
Yeah, I've done some play-by-play demos for some of their games, and let's just say learning play-by-play for me back then was no joke. Have you ever had a chance to do some play demos during your time at Fordham?
Not yet, not yet, but I know a lot of people who have.
Wow. Don't worry, you're in your last year. What? But then again, you have your softball practice to worry about, so you probably may not get to learn play-by-play demos during your time there, since you're a student athlete. But you know what? You have the knowledge. You're gonna get a baseball gig anyway, so we worried. Like, look at Jessica from ESPN, the first woman ever to analyze a World Series, analyze a Sunday night baseball game. Like,
Yeah.
like you can still work great towards getting to where she is if you keep working hard at what you're doing, both on and off the field.
No, exactly. No, seeing people like Jessica Mendoza, it's really inspiring for other, females who wants to get involved in sports, especially sports broadcasting. I mean, it's been male dominated for so long, but there's so many pioneers of the game. I mean, you got Holly Rowe, Doris Burke, I mean, Maria Taylor. There's so many awesome people out there. Kristen Ludlow is actually someone who's I've talked to, and she's awesome. She works in the NBA tonight. And then, yeah, obviously Jessica Mendoza becoming the first, analyst of a World Series game. So that's been really cool, really inspiring to me. And then it just makes me want to work harder. Hopefully I can use what I have been learning. Like I said, WFUV's been great, letting me host shows, letting me get reps. So hopefully that translates into a career somehow. Hopefully I can take what I've learned from softball as well and apply that to the sports world. But we'll see. We'll see. It's all a process.
What are your main goals going out of college?
Yeah, so I'm in a master's program right now. I just started one. So I'm going to be there for one more year. So I'm coming back next year. And then after that, I really want to work in the sports industry. I'm not exactly sure what exactly I want my role to be, but I'm very interested in behind the scenes broadcast. I love film. I love documentaries. I would love to do something with like NFL films or ESPN 30 for 30. I love that kind of thing. Hosting's awesome. So any type of on-air stuff would be cool. My favorite sports, football, basketball, and baseball, the big three. So basically anyone that'll take me, I'll work for. But I know it's gonna be difficult, especially, with Corona, because, COVID, it's changed our industry a lot. So it's gonna be challenging, and I know you have to work your way up, but I'm excited for it.
Yeah, I know you're excited for the future. And you know what? When the school year's almost over, I recommend trying to get some WNBA reps. And I'm speaking
Yeah,
from experience
definitely.
in time because I just finished covering the whole season of the WNBA Wubble. What are your impressions about that, along with the NBA, by the way?
Yeah, no, I first of all, I think it's awesome. I've seen that you cover them a lot, which is awesome. I think more people should be covering what the WNBA does. They got so many great players, and I've heard you hear a lot about, oh, the NBA bubble was so successful, the NBA bubble was so successful, the NHL. Now WNBA was also successful, so I think it's awesome that they were able to find a way to get the season out. I mean, there's a lot of great talent there, and I think I saw that the numbers were all up for their league for viewership, which I think is going to be awesome moving forward. There's been a lot more support for their players from male professional athletes, which as a female athlete, I hate that it has to come down to that, male athletes promoting it, but and the more support they can get, the better. I mean, and I think having these all-stars like Sabrina Ionescu come in, and that's awesome for the game, these recognizable household names that people can follow. I think it's going to be great for the league, but overall, I'm as far as the bubble goes for both NBA and WNBA, I think it's awesome that they figured out a way to play, and they figured out a way to do it while keeping people safe. I mean, they had zero COVID tests. They didn't have to cancel any games, suspend any games like the NFL has had to, like college football has had to. So I hope other leagues can kind of learn from what they did. I mean, I think basketball is a sport where there's not as many players, so it's easier to keep them all contained. But if other leagues can kind of learn from that experience and apply it to seasons until we can figure out a way to deal, if we can figure out a way, to get by or to adapt to this pandemic. But until then, if we can learn from things that we try that work, I think that's all we can do for now.
Yeah, and you know what? It was an amazing season to watch.
Hmm.
Speaking of season, I just got word that the NBA are potentially targeting the return of the NBA season to be January 18th. Well, at least that's what they're potentially talking about. Like, what do you think? Do you think that's the right time for the NBA to come back, or should it come a little later than that?
I think, I mean, if I was an NBA player right now, I'd be like, you've got to be kidding me. You're telling me I was just in isolation for that long and I already have to come back. I don't, that might be a little too soon, especially because now I'm not a scientist, I'm not a doctor, I'm no expert, but I've heard that there's supposed to be another wave of this pandemic around December, January. So it might be a little risky to be starting right then. And if they have to go to a whole bubble, you got to think these guys just spent like multiple months stuck without their families, without their friends, and to have only a few months at home and then have to go right back. And at the end of the day, these guys are tired. Like playing an NBA season is exhausting on the body. And if you don't have a normal rest, which their bodies just came off of something they're not used to. I mean, these are athletes that build their whole lives off a routine, and to have that routine messed up, it could do some serious physical damage. Like you're already seeing in the NFL, they're having so many new major injuries. You don't want that to happen in the NBA. So I think it might be a little early, but I also would be surprised if that January 18th date sticks. I mean, it's only October 22nd. We still got a few months away. So I wouldn't be surprised if they push that back at least a few weeks.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised either. And you know what? That's how you need to do it anyway, considering the fact that the NBA just played an entire calendar year, 12 months, the
Great.
longest NBA season you will ever see, filled with heartbreaks from Kobe passing to COVID stoppage to playing in Orlando. I
Mhm.
mean, but you know what? You got to give credit where credit's due to the NBA. They're really trying hard to get the NBA up to speed. And you know what? It's all because of the fact that they're trying to avoid having to play through the summer like they did last year.
Mhm.
Do you like the NBA playing through the summer in general?
Um, I don't know. The summer's kind of a weird time because there's really not as much going on. Um, I mean this season it was different because you had to play when you played. You had to play 12 months. You had no other option. But I don't mind it playing the summer. It does, again, like I said, mess up their routine a little. You have a lot of guys who use the summer to get back, get back to where they were at the beginning of last season. And you got like the G League, younger players that use the summer to develop that during that time. But I wouldn't hate it, especially because we went so long without sports, and I don't really want to have to go that long again without sports. So if they want to play in the summer, I mean, I wouldn't be fully opposed.
Yeah, I know. And the NBA draft is going to be happening virtually. What are your impressions about that?
I mean, the NFL had their draft virtually, and it was fine. I you know, I don't think those drafts are anything that need to be in person, anyways. I mean, I guess if I were being drafted and I wanted to walk on the stage and shake Adam Silverman's hand, I get that, but I think virtually, if you it's a pandemic, you got to do what you got to do.
Yeah, exactly. But what are your favorite games from the NBA bubble?
Favorite game? Um, so I'm a Celtics fan, so
Oh, you're talking
yeah.
about the team that Bam told to get out of here? Okay.
No, I was tough watching them, but I thought the Celtics Heat series in general was awesome to watch. I mean, uh, my dad played basketball at UMass. He's a huge traditional basketball guy. He loves defense, and growing up, he always told me to watch how guys play defense. And I think watching the Heat and the Celtics play was like a clinic for that. These very aggressive hustle players, both teams that, yeah, you got your Jason Tatum, Jimmy Butler, you have an all-star, but collective teams in general, they needed all five players and then some to win a game. So I thought that series in general was really fun to watch, and I thought, especially, I'm a Celtics fan, but I didn't mind the Heat beating us. I mean, the Heat was special this year. They had something special, and the Lakers, they had to win this year. I mean, with Kobe passing away and everything, it just made sense. But the Heat were special this year, and they brought together a lot of a lot of like players who, yeah, yes, they're all stars, but not anything like super crazy. Like I wouldn't consider them, one of those super teams like the Golden State Warriors were a few years back. But definitely like that series the most.
Exactly. And Miami is basically the most underrated team you will ever see in a long, long time. Most
Yeah.
underrated because you had Jimmy Butler, who's basically been providing the leadership, and he had two triple doubles in the WNBA in the NBA Finals. I said WNBA Finals, but yeah. Not to mention Tyler Hero was out of his mind.
Oh my God. Yeah. Who was that kid too? I mean, he's what, 20, 21?
20 years old. The
20.
only player born and raised after 2000 to play in the finals this year.
He's younger than me, and he's on TV, like, making Jason Tatum look silly. Like,
Yeah. So, what are your favorite WNBA games that you watched?
I haven't watched a lot of WNBA games. I've watched the finals, so I mean, I watched Sabrina Ionescu's first game because I'm so excited about her, but um I don't know I mean, Sue Bird, amazing. I love watching Brianna Carter or Stewart, sorry. And I mean, there's so many great players in that league. I definitely need to watch it more. That's on me, and I especially because it was going on around the same time as the NBA. But I think there's a lot of great talent there, and I think honestly, I think networks need to put them on TV more in prime time. I think they should get more watches.
Yeah, and you know what? Camila does have a point. They have no pregame or postgame for the WNBA finals. You know how
Right.
big those games are.
Huge. Yeah.
Exactly. Well,
Yeah.
we're gonna do the- oh, you gonna say something?
No, I was just gonna say, and that I mean that's half their argument is that they're like, oh, there's more viewers, there's more fans for the NBA, but that's because they have the coverage. They have the coverage. They're being shown on TV, and people have no choice but to watch it. I play softball, and the college softball ratings are the highest for any female sport because they're always on TV. They have them on the College World Series for softball. They have post game, they have pregame, and it's nonstop on TV. When you turn your TV on, it's on ESPN. It'll ESPNU, and the WNBA, like, it needs. Why shouldn't it get the same coverage as the NBA? If not, and at least if not same, at least what 75-80%. And they're just they're getting, honestly, they're getting kind of screwed.
And you know what? I got another question to ask you. What are your thoughts about the NBA having to go through a 2 day stopper to play due to social justice for Jacob Blake?
I think that's huge. At the end of the day, I think leagues need to do more. I think the NFL could take I think they could take a page out of their playbook. I mean, at the end of the day, the players that are in these leagues, that's who you're representing. If you're a league owner, if you're the president of a league, you got to think about who you're representing and what your league stands for. I mean, if that's what your players want to stand for, especially in such a political time. And I mean, I stand by this firmly. Athletes are more than athletes. They have just as much entitlement to political opinions, to sharing their beliefs as a lawyer, a doctor, as a teacher, as anyone does. So I think it needed to happen. I think we're in a very heated and hard political climate to be a part of right now, especially over this summer with everything that was happening, with Breonna Taylor and everything like that. So I think giving these athletes that platform and making a statement was super important. I think hopefully it enacts huge changes. I mean, you've already had a lot of people, individuals and companies and groups that never really had these conversations in the past. They're kind of forced to kind of look at themselves, take a look in the mirror and see, like, oh, maybe I haven't really thought about this from their perspective. Maybe I haven't really looked at myself in the mirror, and have I asked myself, am I part of the problem? And I think we've all learned a lot through these conversations. And I think having these leagues that are so popular, so televised, so in the public eye, address these issues for directly. I think that's huge, and I think it's very important, and I hope they continue to do it.
I know I've only spoken to you for like what 20 or 30 minutes, and I didn't really get a chance to get to know you during my time at Fordham University. But for what you're telling me, I feel like you're not really part of the problem. I mean, you interact with pretty much any student on campus, whether it's African American, white, Spanish, black. Like, you interact with pretty much every person on campus, regardless of the race, considering it's a white dominant school.
It is. I mean, it's a white dominant school, and that's, I think, part of making sure you're not part of the problem is recognizing your privilege. And I think that's something I need to. I mean, I think everyone should work on. I need to work on it, and just realizing that there are conversations you need to have, and there are perspectives that you can't possibly completely understand, but you need to try and learn. And I my parents raised me a certain way. I grew up a certain way, and My thing is I got to keep learning. I want to keep having conversations. I want to keep being the best person, the best ally that I can possibly be. And I think that's if that's what I can do right now, if I can support people and, keep asking tough questions, keep having conversations, then I'm going to keep doing that.
Yeah, I mean, you're just living your life the way you're supposed to live it. I mean, you're a softball player. You're killing it on WFUV. You're probably a high academic student during your time at Fordham University. You got to be at least somewhere in the 3.2 or 3.4.
I'm on the dean's list. I try and do well.
Like, what more do you need to say? That's it. Emmanuel will put you on the mic for a reason because he sees you have potential to be the future of sportscasting.
So much. That means so much to me. Thank you.
And I'm gonna let the future sportscasting continue to be the future sportscasting, both on your end and my end. It concludes this episode of Nothing But That Sports Talk. Thank you for stopping by, Kelly Bright. You gotta get at least a conference championship before you say bye bye to Fordham.
Oh, obviously, yeah. No, we'll make sure. Maybe two more.
And to all the big balls out there, get your head in the game.